baseball is not an individual sport. Like, it is such a team sport that even if you sign a big name or a big bat, it doesn't necessarily mean that your win total is going up. And I'll say this, the Cubs are a team that was easy to fall in love with last year just because the win total was so low and it felt like they had a chance of winning their division. But I don't know. I'm still kind of torn on this Cubs team. Did this move the needle for you at all?
You know, Bellinger had such a great year last year, but the years before that, it wasn't great. It kind of gives me like Christian Yelich vibes almost. Like, he was so good. Now, certainly he didn't win MVP, and it wasn't to the extent of Yelich, but I just need Bellinger to be like a little bit more consistent. I think the Cubs needed to re-sign him. Like, you listen to fans of the Cubs and people in Chicago, like, it was important for them to re-sign a guy who just had a great year for him because they spent all this money on their new manager, Craig Counsell. They get him away from Milwaukee, and it's like, great, you got the guy to lead your team, but he doesn't have his best player from last year to work with. They already lost Marcus Stroman, who was really good for most of the year for him last year, to the Yankees. So I think this was a move that they needed to make, and, they're willing to live with the results. They're obviously hoping that Bellinger can duplicate what he did last year. I think they understand, though, that he certainly could fall off and turn into the guy that we saw the last couple of years that he was with the Dodgers. Does it move the needle for me, though, with the Cubs? Not really. I think Chicago's kind of ceiling this year is certainly they could win the division, make the playoffs. I guess once you're in the playoffs in Major League Baseball, anything could happen. I don't see this team winning the National League, winning the World Series, or anything like that. But with the National League Central being what it is, and I think really every team in that division has a chance to win it. And certainly with the Cubs bringing back their best hitter from last year, that's only going to help their chances. I thought Chicago's team last year had a really nice mix, especially their lineup had a really nice mix of like young prospects and young players mixed in with veterans, and I still kind of feel that way. Obviously, Ian Happ, Dansby Swanson, Bellinger now, like, they have some nice veterans to go along with some younger players and Christopher Morel and Nico Horner. So we'll see. I mean, this was big for them because Bellinger kind of solidifies the middle of their order, and we'll see how it plays out. Personally, they're not my pick to win the NL Central. I don't know how you feel about that division, but I'm not on the Cubs to win it this year, whereas last year I was.
Yeah, if you look at the odds right now to win the NL Central, the Cardinals are your favorite plus 175, Cubs 2-1, Reds plus 350, the Brewers all the way at plus 650. Of course, losing some big pieces with their pitching staff. Corbin Burns is gone. Josh Hader is gone. Man, I don't even remember if Josh Hader played for them last year. Maybe not. Yeah, I think they traded him away a couple seasons ago. But yeah, feels like we all need to brush up on baseball. As for Cody Bellinger goes, I think he is a good part and a good pickup for their team, especially their offense. But I think the questions about his consistency are warranted. Like, if you look at him over the last few seasons, it just feels like he's red hot or very ice cold. Because last year he hit 307, but the year before he hit 210. 2021, he hit 165. And the problem is, when he's down, he's really down. Like, he had 150 strikeouts in the year 2022. So that's the problem. He's kind of feast or famine, but also brings some good veteran leadership. Clearly played for some really good teams with the Dodgers, and maybe can bring that winning culture over to a Cubs team that kind of needs it right now. So I think it is a good pickup, but we will wait and see which Cody Bellinger we are set to see. I think this is a narrative that you bring up quite often. It's, kind of not necessarily fading teams, but being cautious, taking big favorites on Monday games. Because I do think there's something kind of baked in there where you have the big marquee matchups on the weekend, and then you kind of have these sleepy spots where teams are massive favorites. Maybe they take their foot off the gas pedal. And it seems to be the case for UNC. Bill put this in the chat. UNC has lost its last 3 weekday games following Saturday wins. And I know that's not the case here, because didn't we say that their last game was on Tuesday? But is this an angle that you look at frequently? Kind of fading big favorites on a Monday or even a Tuesday?
No question. No question. And I'll give you the perfect example. So, my favorite bet of the night is in one of the Big 12 games today, Baylor and TCU, where you got another one of these games where you got a ranked team in Baylor on the road against TCU, and TCU's unranked and they're favored at home. Chelsea, think about the last couple Mondays. We have seen games in this spot. We got Virginia Tech last week, where Virginia was the ranked team on the road against unranked Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech was favored, blew out UVA. Week before that, we got unranked Texas Tech at home, favored against Kansas, and Texas Tech blew out Kansas. Now we get another one of these spots with TCU and Baylor. So, yeah, to your point, talking about like spots and these quick turnarounds, unranked, ranked teams are like exactly what I'm looking for. I would only take TCU on the money line, though. However, Baylor, they've lost 6 games in Big 12 play this season, but like all of those losses are close. All TCU does is play teams close as well. So I would honestly sprinkle some overtime in this game. Like Baylor just went to overtime too. I think this game could go right down to the wire. I do like TCU to win, but I would just take them on the money line. I think it's a good spot for them. But Baylor just plays everybody close. So does TCU, but I like TCU to win tonight.
Yeah, I need to correct myself real quick because that system that we were talking about for UNC does follow the pattern as UNC just played Virginia and won on Saturday. But back to this Baylor game, because I do think it's fascinating. What do you make of games or teams that are coming off overtime games? Because I think you look at teams and say, okay, maybe they're a little bit more exhausted mentally speaking or even physically speaking. But this has always been like a close matchup for Baylor and TCU. I believe like the last 3 matchups have all come within 4 points. And even this season, where they have a 3 overtime thriller. So normally I would say, okay, in that case, take the points. But in the Big 12 especially, it's really hard for me to fade the home team. Do you think this was like maybe a little leg up for some of those big market teams to get back in it?
It's funny. I think because of a salary cap and because every owner in the NFL is just so stinking rich and they kind of know that if they have a good quarterback, they got to pay him. Like, again, Chelsea, think about the cities where the largest paid quarterbacks are, and think about like the baseball teams in those cities, right? Kansas City with Mahomes. The Royals are thought of as like a small market team. The Ravens with Lamar, the Orioles, small market team. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, the Reds, small market team. So to your point, like if you were to think
Buffalo.
of these cities in baseball, you'd be like, they're dishing out this kind of money. But in football with the salary cap, I don't think it's really as big of a factor. I think it's to a sense, it's just kind of on a level playing field. To your point, doesn't matter if you're the New England Patriots, New York Giants, an LA team, or you're Jacksonville or Pittsburgh or whatever. So, I think that's kind of what makes, the salary cap so intriguing in all these other sports. I think that's why people want it in baseball. That's why I don't want it in baseball, because I think that's what makes baseball so great is the Dodgers and Yankees can't buy themselves championships every year. But in the NFL, certainly, I think it's cool that it allows these teams to keep, especially these small market teams in these other sports, it allows them to keep their really, really good quarterbacks.
I think it goes to show just how important the quarterback position is. Because like you were saying, you look at the MVP candidates and they're all from like quote unquote mid-major, or not mid-majors, but like mid-market teams. Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen in Buffalo, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. So I think this is why we will see people just sacrificing everything in the NFL draft in hopes to get a franchise quarterback.